There are moments in history, truths that are untold, unannounced, yet they have the power to turn the world upside down in a single instant. About a year ago from today, there was a mysterious event, an event that was never fully revealed, its details were never shown, and only those at the heart of it knew about it. There is a highly classified file, long closed until today, that is now coming to light. It is coming to light, carrying secrets greater than anyone could have expected, secrets being revealed for the first time. So, what exactly happened? What were the plans? How have things turned out today? Who was it that prevented this disaster? We will answer many questions today, but after this break, stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Welcome to today's episode, in this renewed meeting, God willing, from the series of Opinion Today episodes. Dear viewers, we have a very exciting topic today because it concerns everyone, of course. He's following these events that the world knows about and is keeping up with the details of this ongoing military, economic, and media war. That is, between Russia and Ukraine, or between Russia and Europe in general, while within this war there is another war. It is being conducted quietly, perhaps it is not being highlighted at this stage, and no one is paying attention to its details at this stage, even though it is very important. A war or battles, the details of which are only revealed after a certain period of time, and perhaps there are battles that will not be revealed at all until after the end of this war, or many years after the end of this war. So we are talking specifically about the intelligence war, the war of espionage, infiltrations, agents, and so on. This is the war in which every detail is being recorded today, until this war ends. So what will be done after that? Maybe books, maybe television series, maybe movies, television and cinema that portray the heroics of this war. So what's important today is that we have some details from this war, some of the events that happened during this war in this intelligence context, because yesterday, the Russian Federal Security Service, whose main tasks include counterintelligence, this Russian intelligence agency revealed a weakness. Among its achievements, some of its accomplishments were, a year ago from today that is, in 2024, most important among these achievements is that he foiled a very dangerous plot by both the Ukrainian military intelligence and the British intelligence together. And this is so that everyone knows that this war that Russia is fighting, I mean, on the surface it's against Ukraine, but in reality it's against all the Western countries. Ukraine is only fighting Russia as a proxy, just in appearance. There is a huge amount of support that Ukraine is receiving on all levels. So the important thing is that this Ukrainian plan was exactly aimed at luring some Russian pilots, and that was for a huge amount of money. It exceeded $3 million in order to hijack a Russian MiG-31 interceptor aircraft. It was carrying one of the most important modern Russian missile technologies, specifically the Kinzhal hypersonic missile, the missile that President Vladimir Putin revealed in 2018, and the missile that was used for the first time in 2023. In this war in Ukraine, it has truly become a nightmare that worries the Ukrainians and all the European countries supporting Ukraine in general. Just like the Orishnik missile, and like the other missiles which have today become a major deterrent force in favor of the Russians. The story began when the Ukrainian military intelligence, with the support of British intelligence, started to implement this plan. There is a person named Alexander who contacted one of the Russian pilots and offered him $3 million. In exchange for what? In exchange for poisoning the pilot while flying, then he hijacks it. After hijacking the plane, he heads toward one of NATO's largest air bases in Europe, specifically in Romania. So that everyone knows this, the control of the Russian MiG-31 aircraft is handled by two people, two pilots. The first one flies the plane and controls its flight, while the second is responsible for the weapons. The weapons carried by the aircraft, the weapons that the aircraft taught us about, this second person is the one who guides these weapons, these missiles from the aircraft. He identifies the target and strikes these targets. So what did the Ukrainians do here? They tried to recruit this second pilot, the one in charge of the weapons, and they gave him remote lessons, teaching him how to operate the aircraft and how to land it at airports. From this second seat, which, as I said, is specialized only for launching missiles and other similar tasks. So pay close attention, be aware of the danger of this plan, so that everyone knows that when we talk and say that there is a major war coming, we are not speaking without reason, but because there are actually parties that really want to start this war. And they have ready-made plans for implementation, parties that want to ignite this major war. So now some people, when he looks at this information that was mentioned, he will think that the pilot will hijack the plane and escape with it to Romania, to land at this NATO air base, where there is also another air base nearby that belongs to the American forces. So this plane is seized and the Kinzhal Russian missile is dismantled, allowing them to uncover the secrets of this advanced Russian technology. Is that so? Maybe everyone will think they'll believe this was the operation's goal, but pay attention. The true objective was entirely different, much larger, and posed a serious threat to global security. What was the plan's real objective? It was to bring down the plane. When entering Romanian airspace, when this plane enters Romanian airspace, it will be brought down using air defense systems. Therefore, this incident serves as evidence that Russia is attacking Romania, attacking a NATO member, and assaulting Romania after assaulting Ukraine. That's how it will be presented, and therefore, it means it's a breach of the airspace of NATO countries, and therefore it becomes a pretext so that the response begins, so that NATO starts a wide-scale war against the Russians. The plan was exactly to try to entangle and involve NATO in this war, to try to drag in the United States. And all the countries in this war, at the very least, they would guarantee the involvement of a second country in this war, which is Romania. That means dragging a second country after Ukraine, dragging Romania and involving it in this war. So if this plan had been carried out, if it had succeeded, we would be living in World War III today. This is one of the most dangerous scenarios that was proposed, and maybe it is still on the table today, just by shooting down this plane and presenting it as evidence or as a pretext. Even the whole world would rise and criticize. There would be urgent meetings, gatherings, statements, mobilizing international support, and activating the media. Let the Lord begin. So pay close attention here. We're talking about the year 2014. We're talking before Trump came to power, before the American administration. We're talking about American policy. It was also going in this direction. Fortunately, this Russian pilot, the extent of the action, the Russian command received news about this strange communication that came from this Ukrainian person. So this Russian pilot was left in contact with this Ukrainian intelligence, as if everything was going smoothly, as if things were going in a normal way as they should. So they know exactly, the rest of the details of this plan, to know the real goal of this plan and so on, what happened, and that this plan was foiled after the intervention of the Russian Federal Security Service. The Russians are very keen on a very important point. Since the beginning of this war, they have been very keen on combating any possible military defection. We can say that the Russians benefited from an experience from the 70s, which I'm discussing today. The Russians are focusing entirely on fighting any possible defection plan, because it has a very serious impact, on the battlefronts, a psychological impact, a media impact, and an impact related to military technology and military secrets, and so on. That's why defection from the Russian army is a red line for them, for the Russians. Everything in Russia is monitored. Why is it monitored? So that such defections do not happen. So pay close attention to the fact that this operation will only be the second of its kind in this field. Ukraine, the first one was successful. Ukraine succeeded in it exactly. It happened in 2023, and this second one failed. It failed. That's right. Because just 1 year before this incident, in 2023, there was a somewhat similar operation. A Russian pilot hijacked a Model 108 helicopter, handed it over to the Ukrainians, and then left for Spain. He left for Spain in full coordination with Ukrainian authorities. So what happened? Does this mean that this Russian defector should be a lesson for everyone? Of course! He was assassinated in Spain last February. He was killed by a professional hitman who shot him 6 times and then ran him over with a car. This means the Russians made him an example for everyone, for anyone who even thinks about defecting. The Russians sent a very clear message to every member of the Russian army. Russia's hand is long. Russia's hand will reach you no matter how far you go or where you hide. He fled to Spain. He thought this country was the safest possible. He thought the Russian intelligence wouldn't even know where he was now. But after about a year had passed, he was in the hands of Russian intelligence. This shows how powerful Russian intelligence is. We're discussing one of the world's most powerful intelligence agencies. I mean, they have a very big legacy from the Soviet Union. And what's strange is that this Russian military pilot who hijacked helicopter 808, how much did he get from Ukrainian intelligence? Was it a reward for betraying them? He got $500,000. That's 500 million Moroccan centimes. He didn't live long to enjoy it before he was assassinated in Spain. Exactly, it was in the Alicante region. Anyone living in Spain knows that the Alicante region has a very large number of immigrants, including even Russians. There are more than 380,000 immigrants from different countries, including about 17,000 Russians living in this region and about 11,000 Ukrainians. They live in this region. The important thing is that the Russian intelligence actually made him an example for anyone who thinks about betrayal inside Russia. The point is, there is a fierce war going on. Russia is fighting it. Ukraine is also fighting it through intelligence and agent recruitment, among other means. And such incidents like the kidnapping of military vehicles and escaping with them to the enemy are very dangerous because of their impact. Russia suffered a lot from this during World War II and also during the Soviet era. Recently, the most important similar incident ever, it was during the 70s of the last century, during the Cold War era. There was a Soviet pilot named Viktor Belenko who hijacked a MiG-25 plane and flew it to Japan. There, in Japan, the plane was handed over to American military experts who examined every part of it and learned all the secrets of the plane that existed at that time. It was considered a source of pride for the Russians, a source of concern for the West, and so on, only to become just scrap. So today, Ukraine might want to repeat the same idea, the same plans, but in a completely different way. That is, the purpose is not to reveal the secrets of the plane or the missile technology and so on, but this time to bring it down over a NATO member state and thus try to involve NATO in this war. And here, when the new American President Trump comes out and says that America will not enter any war against Russia for the sake of a European country or a NATO member state, He knows exactly what he is saying. He knows exactly why this statement was made. He makes this statement only as a political response to such attempts, because of course he has access to intelligence reports as a president. For America, he knows Ukraine's plans. He knows the objectives being plotted by some European countries that are today called the War Party. So here he responds in a special way that even if you succeed in such plans, America will not enter this war. You will be in this war alone. If you are capable of fighting this war, go ahead. Start this war, go ahead. Perhaps statements like these made by Trump ever since he became the head of the American administration are what made the Europeans back down a little from such plans. Add to that also the appearance of these new Russian weapons that were recently revealed, Orishnik missiles, the new cruise missiles, and this missile that runs on nuclear fuel, Brevestnik. These are things that made the Europeans reconsider 1,000 times, to back down from the plan to expand the scope of the war, and maybe not back down, but postpone it to another time. And honestly, if it weren't for these changes that came with the arrival of Trump, we would be in a third world war today. And I say that this war is actually coming. Now, maybe it's just being postponed to a later date. Now, they are putting their hopes in the upcoming United States elections in 2028, waiting for Trump to leave. The return of the Democrats to power in America, so that such plans can come back again. But is this exactly what will happen, or will there be other surprises? Of course, this is what will become clear in the coming days. And you too, answer us in the comments below this video. Subscribe now and hit the like button. Peace be upon you, and God's mercy and blessings. See you next time.